Okay gang, so today we're checking out a 2010 Chevy Silverado. Has a noise in the front end, so we're gonna take it for a drive and see what's going on. So far so good, I don't feel anything womped out. Let's check it out. Hit some bumps with it and see what happens. A little trash in the road. I don't hear anything, I'm not sure what's up. Actually rides really nice. It's got, oh, I don't know, I think it's got 240,000 on it. It rides and drives nice. We'll pull it inside and check it out. Okay, so we drove it, nothing seems suspect. We got it up in the air, and the check tie rods don't feel like they're womped out. Get a bar underneath it and check the ball joints. So there doesn't seem to be any play in the ball joint, I guess. We'll take the tire off, the 22 millimeter. What's a little concerning is this here. That sure looks like brake fluid to me. Is it coming from the line? We put rotors and pads on it, but these look brand new. And the last time we had this truck around was back in the early spring. It's January 1st now, so it's been a year. I don't know if she might have had somebody else put brakes and rotors on it, or just didn't put that many miles on it, but you can see how wet it is. And this is indicative of brake fluid, the way the coating on this caliper is bubbling up. So we need to figure out where that's coming from. All right, we've got a few different things going on here. We've got this brake fluid, and then if you listen, man, that sure sounds like a bad wheel bearing to me. We should probably get the other side up in the air and see what's going on with that. But yeah, that sure sounds like a worn out wheel bearing. And this brake fluid, this is ground off. I wonder what in the heck, how that happened. I don't see any brake fluid on the inside, on the piston side, which is really strange. It makes me think it's this hose. When Alex gets here, we'll have him step on the brake and see if we can see where it's coming from. So in the meantime, I think we'll move to the other side. We'll take the other wheel off and see what that wheel bearing is like. But I would definitely, it's gonna make some noise, but golly, that sure sounds like it's coming from this wheel bearing. And on these, they're not terrible to replace, fairly expensive. Let's move everything over to the other side and get the wheel off over there and get an idea of what might be going on. And I went against my rule. It looks like I gotta get a jack stand under it to, you know, jacks fail. So this would be the difference here. And you can see this brake caliper. It doesn't have all that bubbling coating. So this side doesn't make that growling noise. We've definitely got a bad wheel bearing. The sway bar end links look good. They're not falling apart. The ball joint and the tie rod in there and everything seems fine. The axles look good. They're not leaking any grease. The bushings, it could use some struts maybe in the near future, but it didn't actually ride too bad. It looks like right now we've just got to address the issues on the other side. This side looks like it's fine. The owner's going on a trip to Indiana, so we'll check the diff and the transfer case fluid while we're at it, make sure that's okay. But yeah, it's weird because I don't think these rotors are, you know, 8 months old in the brake pads. We normally use a silver anti-seize on the pad, and I don't see any on these. Maybe a little bit sticking out right there. Yeah, it is. I guess these are our pads and rotors. I can't believe how well they've held up. Normally they're rusted by now. So, all right, let's move the operation back to the passenger side and get that figured out. So something else I thought of is let's check the fluid and see if it's low at all. And it's all the way up to the max line. Something everybody should keep in mind is brakes are a sealed system. So if it's low, there's a reason it's low. Either all the fluid is in the caliper pistons because the brake pads are really worn out, or there's a leak somewhere. So you shouldn't have to add to it. It's not normal maintenance to have to top it off every so often. This one's full. So I guess we keep digging on what's going on the caliper over here. All right, so we got to remove this caliper one way or another to inspect it and also to replace the wheel bearing. That's a 19. I don't see where the pistons are leaking. It's not making much sense right now. Let's see if there's anything on this back of the back of this pad we would see. I'm a little bit disturbed by how these aren't coming out. Okay, so there's nothing on the pad. Now let's check the other side. Okay, nothing on the pad there. Both the pins are free. But man, this thing is so... Where in the world is it coming? There's some grease hanging from it. Oh, that's from setting it on the ball joint up there. Yeah, this thing is wet. What in the world is going on? They don't leak through the casting that I've ever seen. For it to be here and here, all over the front of it here, it's really odd. None of it's new. It's not wet right now. And the caliper's not new, like it was replaced. Guess I should go back through the file and see if we replaced this caliper when we did the brakes and rotors, but it sure doesn't look new to me. It's very strange. All right, so Alex is getting this apart. So we got the bracket off. What size are these, Alex?
They were 18.
Okay, so 18 millimeters. Get the caliper bracket off. Now he's gonna pull the rotor. He pulled the little Torx bit. It's a T30 for the one that holds it on. Now we've got to undo this ABS sensor from up here and get it out of its plugs, and then there's a nut under here, so this cap has to come off, and then there's bolts on the back side that we'll have to get out. So yeah, we'll work the ABS sensor loose from the clips and stuff, and we'll get it pulled out. Yep, keep working it. You might be able to like twist that thing. Yep, there you go. All right, let's see. There we go. We'll set the backing plate down the way it goes. All right, that's a pretty good method to get one off. Like if you're not real sure if the bearing is bad, once you start beating on the hub with a hammer, you'll never know if it was good or bad. So that way, working it back and forth and getting this rust loose in the spindle, you haven't damaged the bearing. But if you can hear this, that little bit of grit inside there, once the weight of the vehicle's on this bearing going down the road, it's gonna make a whole lot of noise. It wasn't terribly noisy inside the cab going on the road, but it definitely is shot. So I'll show you the difference when the new bearing gets here between the old and the new, and we'll get Alex to button it back up. Now, one thing you can do to make life a little bit easier is to take a file, sandpaper, whatever you have available, and clean this area. Get it as clean as you possibly can where the hub seats to the spindle. It'll make it so much easier going back together. And then if you ever have to replace it again, it's not gonna be quite so difficult to get out. So I'll go through and clean this surface, and we'll catch back up with you when we go to put the new bearing in. All right, so I almost got ahead of myself here. See, all right, so we got the new wheel bearing. I put a little bit of anti-seize around where it mates to the spindle. We'll get the backing plate, everything going all at once. We'll make sure the wire's there, and we'll try and start some of the bolts by hand here. Sometimes you gotta do a little wiggling, get them in their home. That one's going in. So we'll just turn this one in, and then we'll get going on the other two. So here's our ABS harness. We're going to use the clip that's already attached to the control arm there. We'll plug this in there, and now pushes in up here. There's a guide and then a barbed push pin. There we go. That's not going nowhere. And that's it for this. Alex is going to reassemble. I'll hang the rotor on here for him. And let's see. We got that lined up.
All right, so we're going to put a little anti-seize on these so they don't seize up. Don't have to use much because even the tiniest bit, and then it's everywhere. So now we did that to our other one, and put where the piston is going against the pad, put some anti-seize there. We'll put these two bolts back in, start them. They are 18s, so we'll go ahead and tighten these back up. Now we can start on putting our caliper back on. So go ahead and unhook that. Go ahead and run them in. All right, so now that we did that, we got our digital torque wrench, and it's set at 177 foot-pounds. There you go. And that is torquing that to spec.
All right, we're gonna replace the door speaker in this 2010 Silverado. The other one was blown, so the person that owns this truck got two new speakers. So we're just gonna pop this window control out. There's a button on it. Push, take that off. Next, we are gonna pull these off. They just unsnap like that. I got a couple clips. Pull this one off, same way. Okay, there we go. Just clips. So that's off. Now we've got pop open this little door and this one up here in order to access the bullet. So that pops out. And then this one will pop out, hopefully. Sometimes they can be a pain. So that one's out. Another one. That's by the handle. And then you've just got these three 10mm bolts. Now, luckily, these speakers have already been replaced once with some Rockford Fosgates. We're putting Kenwoods in it now. So it already has the adapters, which you may or may not need on yours. So we're just going to pop all this loose. Now, once this side's loose, we'll go up. So the cable, pull that up. We'll unclip this. There's one of the blown speakers. I'll get the new one. Oh yeah, it's smashed. It's blown right out. It looks like it fell inside the door. This is the speaker set we're gonna install. Kenwood Concert Series, 320 watt peak power, flush mount, KFC 651. Your truck may not have, I don't know if these are the original adapters for the original speakers or not. There's a lot of conflicting information on the internet. So, but I can only assume that these are adapters that were put in when those Rockford Fosgate speakers were put in. And luckily, it already has them. Now this is the factory adapter. Boy, that don't fit very tight. We can't have that thing sliding on and off. That ain't no good. We better pinch that down a little bit with some small needle nose. And if it doesn't close up enough where it feels good, we'll put new ends on it. We want these tight. Of course, we don't want them so tight that we wreck the speaker. That would be catastrophic. Now we'll start by plugging this in. We still got our connections here. Now, since those other screws were really crummy, we're gonna go with some self-tappers here and see if they'll bite. If they don't bite, we're gonna have to come up with a new solution. All right, so what I've done is added some 10 by 24 standard thread stainless screws with nuts to hold it to this fixture so it can't wobble around. It just came with like a wood screw almost, so with the nuts this will be in much better shape. Now we just got to put it back together. So we're going to start with the cable and we'll feed it through, tuck it in. Okay, cable's in the bottom. We'll put our 3 bolts back in. Okay, there we go. We got the small one, goes here, line them up. All right, let's go for a drive and see how the front end sounds. Make sure the brakes are okay and everything. All right, let's see how it sounds. Everything's doing pretty good. It's a good running truck. I'm gonna try out the radio, so I'm gonna turn the camera off for a second because I'm sure there's copyright issues with having music, you know, play that you don't own the rights to. So I'll be back. So yeah, it's doing really good. No more wheel bearing noise, drives nice, runs good, no check engine light, which is pretty cool for 240,000 miles on this thing. Yep, I think we'll call this one a wrap. All right, so that's it for the rear door speaker install. Pretty easy. Anybody could do it. There's not a lot going on. Let us know if you like the video. Subscribe, give us a like, click that bell so you get notifications. We put out videos twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. We try to throw in a tool review every week. So let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.